Ah, sketching, the designer's bread and butter, the tool by which we can communicate all the ideas that are in our heads. And yes, while this technique is very cool, maybe the oldest school of cool, it's definitely going to help you increase your skills when it comes to more advanced techniques such as digital drafting, 3D modeling, and rendering. In this video, we're going to look at a few of my favorite sketching techniques, as well as the tools I use to execute these techniques. I'll show some examples and give small tutorials on how to perform these techniques. Enjoy! We'll be looking at blind contour, value studies, false color value studies, directional gradients, stippling, collage, digital sketching, and gestural sketching. Most of the sketching techniques I'm going to show you are primarily ink-based. Whoa man, what's wrong with pencils? Are you saying that the ability to erase lines ultimately undermines the confidence-building lessons that are inherent in sketching in the first place? Yeah man, that's exactly what I'm saying. My go-to sketching tool is just a standard ballpoint pen. My favorite is the Pilot G2. You can also use technical pens such as the Sakura Micron, as long as you can see that each pen has a different line weight thickness. And again, these also come in a range of colors. And for quick value studies, I like to use illustration markers. Specifically, I use the Copic Sketch, and these grayscale markers have a nice brush tip that you can use to quickly lay down a lot of value. Let's start with the rules of a blind contour. You have to stare at your subject, do not look at your paper, and do not remove your pen from your drawing surface until you're done drawing. If this is the first time you've done a blind contour, it's going to look goofy. It might look bad. It might not be representative of the thing you're trying to draw. Usually, if you're drawing a face, the eyes and mouth start bleeding off the edge of the head into something that's weird, blobby, amorphous, and maybe kind of scary. The benefit to this drawing technique is that it builds confidence and helps you dissociate your hand from your eye. One of the most important and valuable sketching techniques that you can learn are value studies. This is the process of only drawing the highlights and lowlights in any scene. You can use software to help you increase the contrast of what you're looking at, or you can squint at what you see and the darker areas will become darker, the lighter areas will become lighter. And this is what you will sketch, usually in grayscale, but you can use any range of values of a single color. The benefit in doing this, whether you're using grayscale markers, paint, or even a single ballpoint pen, the application of these values is the best way to really capture the shade and shadow of any scene you might be trying to represent. The more you practice, the more it becomes a very quick way to communicate a scene that may be detailed and complex, but it's a great place to start. Directional gradients build upon the foundations of value studies, but generally uses just one single pen to capture all the different shades and shadow in a scene. This means that usually the lines will be running either in all the same direction or used to accent the directionality of certain planes. You can think of this kind of like hatching. The more dense the hatch, the darker the value. Another method of exploring value studies would be stippling. Now, the way that this differs from a value study or a directional gradient is that instead of horizontal or vertical lines, you're only making dots. The more dots you make, the darker the value that you're representing. Yeah, this technique is kind of a pain in the ass and you're going to get a lot of cramps, but the results are undeniably more realistic. Now, collage might not seem like an actual sketching technique, but the more you practice, the more you'll be comfortable with laying down a bunch of images to represent a more complex scene. You can cut out images from magazines, newspapers, books, any sort of printed medium, or you can even create them yourself and compile them together into a complex scene, not unlike how we might make imagery in Photoshop. which also can be used outside of the analog techniques to create very complex imagery. Digital sketching is a technique where we can use something like Photoshop or Procreate to take the place of pen and paper. This example here is using different shades of color, but it can be as simple as using a black colored brush in your favorite digital drawing program. The benefits of digital sketching allow you to use the precision of digital tools while being able to focus on representing your individual scene. As with any of these techniques, practice is key to making sure that your work comes out the way that you envision it. This last technique is what I call gestural sketching. It's where you combine all of these techniques together into one super drawing technique. You will add contour lines where they're needed, hatches, lines, stipples, shade, and shadow where they are needed as well. What's important with this technique is the overall gesture of the image. There will be a few lines or shapes within the overall composition that is the key to capturing what it is that you are trying to say to others, what you see. That is, after all, the essence of sketching, getting others to see what you see. And that's it. Hopefully you can add all of these techniques to your toolkit now. Now remember to practice every day. A bad sketch is better than no sketch at all.